Hey guys, welcome to Note Kya Jaye, a podcast where we take notes on life together as a team. And today I've got an interesting guest, a person that I felt could share a different perspective on education, learning, and some other beautiful concepts. She is the director of Anwesha, and who better than herself to tell you a little bit more about Anwesha? So, ma'am, thank you so much for coming here. So, first of all, let's let the audience know that who you are and what Anvesha is all about.
Wow, deep question. Thanks for having me. Anwesha. So the entire name or the complete name is Anwesha Composite Education.
Yeah.
And in short, we call it ACE or Anvesha, whatever we like it to be. So Anvesha was incepted in 2014,
Hmm.
right, by two individuals,
Hmm.
actually. And they had this very clear vision that a lot of people, a lot of us
Hmm.
have talent. A lot of us have probably gone through the whole schooling process, but with a little hand holding, we could do a lot in life. It's about that little facilitation that people call, right? That little thoda sa nudge kar diya to aap aage बढ़ गए. Head start. So that is how it started, with that vision. And the entire concept was to empower those people who have been labeled as traditional failures in life. So our entire focus or our work, our vision has been to work with 10th dropout kids, right? And that is what we do. We realized we've been talking, you and I have been talking before, and we know, and we've been interacting on right to education before.
Yeah.
And I spoke about how right to education act was passed on to promote enrollment to schooling. There were a
Hmm.
lot of kids, there were a lot of little children who were not going to school earlier, and government thought that's an important step to take. Education is a right, and
Yeah.
we have to have every child get that opportunity today. So that was passed on. A lot of efforts have been put in to get students to enroll in schools, but a lot of there's still a gap area. The gap area is people dropping out of schools, right? And
Okay.
there are different reasons people drop out of schools. There are social reasons, there are academic reasons.
Yeah.
Some people are not able to clear 10th grade,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
True.
Especially
True.
those
True.
kids in uh, government schools, or those hailing from lower income backgrounds. They might not have the support that a lot of us do
Yeah.
today,
True.
right? Today tuitions is just a very normal thing for every child
Absolutely.
out here. So they don't have all of those
Yeah.
supports, and so the dropout ratio is also very high.
Hmm.
Now, what do these kids do when they drop out of schooling, or when they, not pass,
Not pass.
not pass? Uh, so there weren't a lot of opportunities for them,
Yeah.
right? And those were the kids that we wanted to reach out to. Those were
Hmm.
the kids that we wanted to do something about. But one, the core of it all was, we don't want to do charity,
Yeah.
right? Because charity you will do once, you will do twice, and over a period of time, it's not very sustainable
True.
to run anything or everything. Not like we never had CSR money, we never had donation money, but we had that intent,
Yeah.
right? And so we wanted to create a model around it which was more sustainable in the long term.
Hmm.
So a model that could be replicated at all over India. We're not just talking about, since we've started, it doesn't have to end with us.
Yeah.
It was just a start that had to begin with. So yes, we created a model. We catered to 10th dropout students, and we're more in the vocational space.
Hmm.
So we could talk about it more as
Definitely.
we proceed from here. Yeah.
So that was all about Anvesha. Now, to the audience, one thing that we forgot to mention
Hmm.
was about you. So
Yeah.
I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Ah. It's
I
like
guess
I'm
we,
sitting.
we we lost
Yeah.
track of everything in that because Anwesha is such a beautiful organization. Every time I
Yeah.
have heard from you about it. So I want my audience to know you as well. So you can be a bridge that they can follow to that foundation. So I would like to know more about you.
Okay, to know more about me. So I'm a very private person, and you know that doing this is like, I'm probably sweating sitting here. But uh, okay, so since we've spoken about Anvesha, I'll give you a context from that
Mhm,
as well. So I was academically, I was a well performing student.
mhm.
I was always the kid in the class who was called a teacher's pet,
Yeah,
probably, right? And
understandable.
always scoring good marks. But then over a period of time, I realized that that is not what education is about.
True.
That is just a small part of schooling
Yeah.
that had to be done. And I wanted to find out more. I wanted to I had this inner need of breaking stereotypes for some reason,
Yes.
right? I saw a lot of them everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
even today, everywhere. So I realized people would hate me for scoring too much. Yeah, I wouldn't have too many friends. कि हाँ ये तो पढ़ाकू है, किताबी कीड़ा
ये
है,
समझदार है, इससे दूर रहो.
हाँ ये इससे दूर रहो. And I realized I never studied for the sake of getting marks. I genuinely enjoyed learning. I
Mhm,
enjoyed studying, right, and finding out about things. And it was always a question mark. Why didn't others like it?
mhm.
What is something that is missing for them that they don't like learning, and they actually think कि हाँ, school jana is a task, padna is a task. So that's how my questioning started. That
Yeah.
is how I began my journey. I've worked with special education
Mhm.
centers. I've worked with different NGOs. I I I have a psychology degree,
Amazing.
right? I've done psychology, and but I was very clear I'm never going to get into psychology.
Wow.
It takes a lot of emotional toll on
Yeah.
you to sit with people. It takes a lot of emotional energy and strength
Yeah.
to
True.
do that, to get
True.
into
True.
the
True.
field of psychology and counseling specifically, right?
I
So I
I can
understood
I can
that.
attest to that
Yeah.
because जिन लोगों के साथ मैंने काम किया है, every single person that I have counseled,
Mm,
to be honest, their stories, उनकी उनकी हर बात, उनकी कुछ सुनाए हुए किस्से, they do affect you to an extent that you feel that you place yourself in their shoes. Because to begin with, you have
mm,
to understand that part of their life, and it pains to see somebody struggle too much. But at the same time, I take pride in the fact that as a counselor, uh, एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट का जॉब यही होता है कि get with them into the water and help them swim across. So swim with them.
yeah.
उनके
That's a
साथ
very
में.
important point. Like a lot of people come to us and tell us psychology. अरे मैं तो बहुत अच्छा psychologist बन सकता था या बन सकती थी because I can give advices to people.
Advice
And
is
that's the last
weird.
thing you would want to
Exactly.
do.
एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट कभी एडवाइस नहीं देता. It's not empty advices. It's to be honest, see, a counselor does advise people, no doubt about it. But when it is strictly keeping it objective and staying away from the person, it
Mm,
becomes consulting. कि ठीक है, मैंने तुम्हारे लिए ये काम किया, तुम ये कर लो. बट जो काउंसलिंग होती है या फिर ट्राइंग टू गेट इन टच विद पीपल, सो it's more about being there as a moral support with them and not
mm,
doing it for them but seeing how they unfold and how the scenario is handled by them. So
yeah.
एक moral support बन के खड़ा रहना भी एक बहुत बड़ी बात होती है. So to me, like when you talked about, like, some people say that I
Mm,
have actually had friends जो ये बोलते हैं कि नहीं मैं बहुत अच्छा psychologist बन सकता था because मेरे कुछ seniors थे
mm,
who got into business after taking a psychology degree. So I every time I talk to them, मेरे दिमाग में सिर्फ एक ही ख्याल आता है कि they would have done well, but they lack that one thing that a good psychologist should is empathy, not
yeah.
sympathy. Because when you advise somebody, जब हम advice देते हैं तो हम उनसे हम
Mm,
अपनी जगह पे, वो अपनी जगह पे, और हम बस उन्हें बता रहे हैं कि ठीक है ये हो सकता है, वो हो सकता है. So sympathy is completely different. It's staying away from the person. But empathy means I feel exactly how you feel and then I understand.
Yeah.
And perhaps let's just say a psychologist will not know exactly how they feel, but they'll try their level best to reach to that level. कि नहीं, I want to understand how you feel. I want to know how you feel. तुम्हें कैसा लग रहा है? And then you take a step further. And you are there on each and every step. So I think same role is played by teachers in a person's life. What do you think? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I was just coming to that, in
Yeah.
fact. So, psychology is not necessarily about counseling,
Yeah.
right? So, you use the foundation
Yeah.
and learnings from the field of human behavior
Yeah.
to apply to a concept of education.
Exactly.
And since you've asked me that question, again, I have this strong, strong belief that schooling or academic system is not equivalent or synonymous to education.
Exactly.
Education is much larger. Education
true,
is a
true.
concept. Education has a purpose,
Yes.
right? It has not just a purpose of individual development, it also has a purpose of social development.
Yeah.
It also has a purpose of economical development in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected for education. You and me sitting here today is
Yeah.
part of education, right?
Exactly.
We're
Because
learning
we
from
learn
each
something.
other.
Yeah, true.
People are learning from us.
Yes. Yes.
We are interacting,
Definitely.
right? So education is what do you say? A rainbow with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of colors.
It's a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, and all we've been exposed to is one side of it, which is
Yeah.
schooling. Even today, we'll just replace words so easily. कि हाँ, India का education system तो बहुत खराब है,
Exactly.
right? But what we're talking about is something very,
Very,
very
very, very.
specific,
Exactly.
which we've been
Because
exposed
at
with.
the end of the day, when we talk about education system, my grudge with education system is the fact that it does not cater to specific needs of the students who are very diverse.
So I'll
That's what I
interrupt
feel.
you there. So
Yeah.
I'll interrupt you. The very fact
Mm-hmm.
that you say that education system is not doing something
Mm-hmm.
displays or is testimony to the fact that education system doesn't exist completely. If it
Exactly.
did, it would have been education,
Yes. True, true,
right?
true, true.
So it's still building up. Education
Yeah.
is not the end of things. It is
The
a
beginning.
process.
It's
It
a
is a
process. Yeah.
it's a process. It keeps building up. It
Mm-hmm.
is um, the day you achieve all the goals
Mm-hmm.
is the day you can say now is the next step of education. Now we've
True.
established the
True.
education in the country or anywhere in the world. So if it's not doing something, if it's not accomplishing a basic human need
Mm-hmm.
in the world, it's not existing as of yet.
Yeah.
It's still incomplete and there's things to be done. So we cannot criticize the thing that doesn't exist yet.
Ooh. Like, this brings me to the concept of the fact that nothing is perfect, right? No human being
Hmm.
is perfect. No concept is perfect. Um, no, nothing that exists in this universe is perfect. Why? Because a state of perception is a concept constructed by us,
Hmm.
and everybody has their own subjective definition of perfection. So, what I personally feel is everything is complete only till 99%. And there is always room for progress.
You know, you mentioned a very important fact, Abhi, that everyone has their own sense,
Yeah.
own perception,
Yeah.
right? And probably own sense and perception of reality as well.
True.
You construct it.
Yeah.
And I think education plays a role of connecting different realities together
Facts. True, 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 true.
because we humans are social people,
Hmm.
right? A lot of us would want that education system was not justified or it did not serve my purpose. But a lot of times we forget that probably a part of our purpose is to contribute socially,
Exactly.
connect with the other person. It's like a family concept, right? Sometimes, a lot of times, you don't agree with things. Sometimes you compromise a few things
Exactly.
without calling it a compromise, without
Exactly.
realizing, because something means more than that.
Something like what I mentioned earlier in our conversation, that you can completely disagree with somebody. You can be in completely opposite
Yeah.
directions in terms of ideas, but you can still love the person for who they are, no
So,
matter what.
yeah, so education is that macro concept that we don't even realize what it's doing to us today.
Exactly.
It's happening around us.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times we would not be happy because there's a larger purpose to serve.
Yeah.
So, I've always perceived education to be that. I
True.
have always perceived education to be a powerful force,
Mm-hmm.
a connect,
Yeah.
right? A lot of times we read newspapers and
Yeah.
we read a lot of things we don't like. There are crimes, there are rapes happening, and we want to do something about it,
Yeah.
right? And for me, that answer was education.
Mm-hmm.
That education can enlighten you to differentiate between right and wrong in the context.
Mm-hmm.
There's, n-
It's subjective.
yeah.
True. Right. I completely agree with that because I'm a strong believer of the fact that right and wrong are just concepts, and they are subjective to the opinion of the person and the situation that they are in. So no matter what I do, so let's just say for me, taking something from someone was me borrowing it,
Hmm.
but for somebody else, it might be stealing it. So
Right.
they are the same situation, yet two different contrasting opinions about the same scenario. So I very much agree to that. You just mentioned purpose,
Hmm.
right? So I personally feel that purpose comes from within, right? Because everybody needs to find out what resonates with them the most.
Hmm.
I want to know what's your take on purpose. What do you believe that how can somebody find their purpose just like you did find yours?
Okay, so I wouldn't say probably I found mine or not.
Okay.
So that again, I'll take back to few years when I was still a school kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there was this decision के हाँ आगे जाके कौन से subjects choose कर रहे हैं,
Yeah.
right? And every day I would make a list of 20 things
Mm-hmm.
I had to not do.
Yeah.
And that's when my mom got very worried. अरे इसको क्या नहीं करना है वो पता है, क्या करना है वो नहीं पता है. And she took me to my principal's office and she sat down and she's like, she doesn't know what she has to do. She just knows what she doesn't want to do. And that's when my principal told her, a lot of MCQ hota hai na. Sometimes we work on elimination.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this, don't want to. And over a period of time, you'll get there. It's a
True,
journey.
true, true,
So
true.
for me, finding a purpose is like that journey. You have to do a lot of things probably that you'll realize you don't
Don't
want
want
to
to do.
do.
Yeah,
Uh,
true.
Things that you perceived as your purpose but was not.
True.
And that self evolution has to happen. That self realization has to happen. And a lot of times I think people would get very sad because they don't know what their purpose is.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we've made purpose such a big thing. You don't know what
exactly.
you want to do. You don't have a goal in life. You don't really know what to do next. So sometimes it's okay not to know, right? Because we'll get there.
Something that I have been a strong believer of, and my mother said this to me. She sat me down, and because it was between the time where I had to choose which stream that I would want to go in, right? And what I felt was my future. So I ruled out every option and I felt, okay, I am hopeless. I have nothing to do. Then my
Mm.
mother sat me down. She said that, Beta, ek baat batao. There is a very huge secret that all these successful people are not telling you. I was like, okay, I think have to listen because I follow a lot of successful people. I was like, okay, ऐसा क्या है? I sat down, मैंने सुना, and she told me something that I have carried all this time. She said that, guess what? Nobody has it figured out. I was like, shit. Oh my God. I mean, what do you mean? Like, all these people that are successful, they never knew they were going to be successful. It's like, yeah. So that means, is it okay if I don't want to be successful? I don't know if I'll be
Mm.
successful. It's like, okay. I was like, okay, so that means I have to rule out the fear of failure because there is no final destination that has to be 100% definite. Because when you should know what you want to do, you should know why you want to do, but
Mm.
when and how is never in your hands. You should know exactly how you feel. Why am I doing this? Just like you have such a great love for
Mm.
education because you enjoy it and that's your why. When and this
Mm.
podcast becomes my reasons because I enjoy having such conversations with people. So I know my why. I can create what we are doing. So you are part of Anwesha. So you know what you have to do and why you are doing it.
Mm.
But when and how, it's not in your hands. It's not at all in our hands. हमारे हाथ में ये सब चीजें होती ही नहीं है. And all we have to do is take life one step at a time. And there's this famous line in Rocky, right? I guess Rocky 3, Rocky Balboa's coach, he says, you have to go one step at a time, one round at a time, one punch at a time. And I love that because when I heard that, the first thought that came to my head was you have to live your life one breath at a time. One breath at a time. Because that's something that we lose track of. Breathing is important, and staying conscious in this moment is important. Being aware of what happens around you is important, but not trying to control it, experiencing it. What do you
Mm.
think?
So, okay. I was part of this program
Mm-hmm.
by United Nations called Empretech. I think we
Okay.
just spoke about a while back, but I was a part of it, and it. I'm trying to get this in place because it was an important, what do you say, realization in my life then,
Mm-hmm.
where we spoke about a lot of things. We went through a lot of things, and there were two, three things that I carried forward from there.
Yeah.
One was purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the other one was ikigai.
Oh, I love that concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's not take it literally, but
Yeah.
the beauty of looking at things in four different ways,
Yeah.
right? It is not just about what you really want to do.
Yes.
It is about what I want to do paired with what I'm good at, which I have to figure out, right?
Yeah.
No one can come and tell me this is what I'm good at and that's going to be an absolute thing about it.
Yes.
And what the world needs, and it
Mm-hmm.
has to be sustainable.
True.
And that's where it comes to this one point. You have to make money out of it. If you don't,
Exactly.
you're not going to serve a lot of different um, areas that you
Yeah.
probably want to. And the third thing that I actually took away from the program was relativism.
Okay. Let's go a little bit deep into that. Can you tell me a little bit more about
I'll
it?
be very ekdam layman about it.
Okay. Batao.
Okay. And the thing that struck me was let's not be the context
Yeah.
that we just spoke about. How you can come from a school of thought where you believe this is the absolute,
Yeah.
and you just mentioned that, live in the moment. This
Mm-hmm.
is how you're supposed to do. And that is your way of
Yeah.
looking at things. That's your
True.
context.
Yes.
From where I might come from,
Yeah.
I might have a very different way of looking at life.
Agreed.
Probably I would want to plan ahead. Probably I would want to decide what I want to do and move ahead with it, and not live every day,
Yeah.
but live for tomorrow.
True.
Okay,
True.
but
True.
that's relativism because nothing is absolute. Good for me is bad for you is better for me.
Agreed.
And because you just told me about how your mother told you that no one has it figured out.
Yeah.
So no one has the absolute answer,
Yes.
right? And everyone has this concept of coming from relativism where, okay, you might be right
Yeah.
and I might be right too. And whatever you're saying might work for you, but not it might not work for me.
Facts.
And those are the things that we never listen or never think from the success story point of view. हम लोग ये success stories पढ़ के हमें लगता है this is how things have to be done,
Exactly.
and he or she did this to become successful, and this is the formula I have to follow.
Exactly.
When do we carve our own journey?
Yeah.
When do we carve our own learnings and build it all together to form who we are today? And that again, I'm connecting to education because education has that role to play in your life
True.
to make you who you are, to create that circumstance, to create that environment, to facilitate that growth
Yeah.
and creation of self. That is education. And when that does not happen, we have a lot of consequences happening,
True.
XYZ, etc., etc., etc.
You know, like just thinking about the topic just we went through, it's so deep that like there's so many things we can talk about. There is so many things that we can, share with people. But just like you said, nothing is absolute. Hence, people would have to find a way to interpret it to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
Because I am responsible for what I say, but I am not responsible for what you understand. That is something I learned from my mentor, and he always told me this, that Dwij, you are completely and utterly responsible for every single thing you say and mean it the way you mean it. But you cannot take responsibility of how the other person understands it. Hence,
Mm.
choose your words wisely. Choose it very wisely. Because hota kya hai that I can say that I feel this, I feel X, Y, Z. The other person will like, okay, did you mean A, B, C? जैसा
Mm.
हमारे साथ गूगल ट्रांसलेट के साथ कितने बता रहे आई से सम हिंदी नेम गूगल ट्रांसलेट विल गिव मी सम डाइवर्टेड वर्जन ऑफ दैट
Mm.
नेम नहीं ये नहीं है सो द वर्ल्ड हैज its own way to run. Everybody has their like approach to life which is specific to them. And I personally feel people should be encouraged to find their own answers than
Mm.
having somebody answer it for them.
Um, an interesting piece that
Yeah.
I would like to share with you. So, when I went to do my master's,
Mm-hmm.
right, psychology, everything done, I've decided I don't want to get into counseling. And now, two, three things I get exposure. And I decided that I want to get into education. I want to
Yeah.
really take it up, I want to understand it.
Yeah.
The first day of our course in master's, my professor walked in and she's like, take a paper, take a pen, draw what education means to you.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Draw one thing that signifies education for you. So, like you said, everyone has their own meaning, everyone has to form um, a purpose. That was something that was very, what do I call it? It shook me in a way, right?
Okay.
Where I never thought of education as something so personalized,
Yeah.
something that I could make sense of.
Yeah.
It was always government ने ये कहा है education means this,
Huh.
books में ये कहा है education means this,
Yeah.
Rabindranath Tagore ने कहा है education means this, and that is what we perceived it to be. I
Exactly.
had never ever thought what it means to me.
Yeah.
Even though I decided I want to go there, I want to do my masters in it, and that was a very important call without
True.
realizing what it really means to me.
Yeah.
And education, like we started off the whole conversation between us with what I think of education,
Yeah.
and um, so I went around. So for my thesis, I actually took up the topic of asking people what education meant to them,
Really? That's amazing.
right? And you'd be surprised with the answers or the findings that I
Okay.
got. Not one of them told me that education to me meant learning numbers or mathematics,
Wow.
okay, or
That's
English
great.
or sciences. But I did have people tell me that I want education to make me ready, to teach me how to form relationships, right? There was a person who told me, I wish education exposed me to sports.
Wow.
I wish education, someone in education, in my entire schooling journey, someone told me that purpose of education is to break your inhibitions. So, education is colorful. It is so colorful and it is so personalized. But all those personal perceptions, purposes have to come together to form a larger purpose. That is when we'll have the complete thing around us.
Exactly. Now it's bringing me to something. First of all, I'm blown away by the fact that like this is exactly like what I was expecting to hear. Because to be honest, when I first saw you, when I first heard you, right, and you talked about the concept, I created a mental image that I want to find out what you perceive about education. Because I had my own viewpoints, right? Like we shared it before
Hmm,
as well. And I am surprised that a lot of people, just like you did your thesis on, so you, me, and a lot of people out there do believe that education is way beyond information.
right?
And that's where people need to draw the line. They need to understand information, knowledge, and wisdom are three different things.
I'll tell you what, Dwij. I think that epiphany
Yeah,
has already dawned upon people.
true.
Like you would meet a lot of people who would agree to whatever we are discussing today. Right now, the next step, which I think a lot of us do not know, is how to make it happen.
True.
Right? I think we've gone beyond that conversation that education is more than books.
Yeah.
It is much beyond. We've had a lot of good concepts of multiple intelligence come in, promotion of a lot of extracurricular come in the academics. We've had people look at education at 21st century skills and different things which you would expect that
Yeah.
to come in. But now the next step is कैसे करें?
लोगों को यही
Yeah.
तो नहीं पता है कि कैसे करें. Now, the biggest problem that I feel in trying to find out how we should do it is the fact that people need to more readily come out with their opinions. Because if, like, I don't know if you
Hmm.
agree with me or not, but people do fear sharing their opinion. Perhaps so, everybody has their own reasons. Some people hate going in front of people. Some people are introverts. Some people don't want to be judged. Some people have society judgment fears. Everybody has their own reasons. But unless and until people actually share their opinions, n- and to be honest, social media, although it exists, nobody is willing to say what they actually want to say.
So I'll disagree on one part of
Okay.
it, right? I'll say that people are not scared to share opinions.
Okay.
People are scared to share unpopular opinions. If it's not
True.
part of the herd,
Yeah.
right, I will stand out.
True.
And that's not what I want. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be looked down upon. I don't want to be questioned on why I think differently. So I would agree or I would share what I think as long as it's confirming to a certain set of opinions
Yeah.
in a way.
Fun fact, all these people that actually want to be a part of the herd are the same people who look up to people who are successful because they went against the herd.
Yeah, but again, I won't blame them. You know
Yeah,
why? Because we have not given them a platform
true.
so that they could be okay not conforming to the herd.
Exactly.
Right? We have to play that part today. We have to play that part as individuals, as youth, as elders, as parents.
Mm-hmm.
I think parents have a very, very big role to play in how we are going to shape up the whole academic system coming forward.
True.
Because if you think about it, you know business, I know business.
Yeah.
We know that schools, their customers are not the students, the customers
It's
are
the
the parents.
parents.
So, till parents don't ask for it, they're not going to get it. The market is not going to
Exactly.
give it to them.
The thirsty person has to go to the well. प्यासे को कुएं के पास जाना पड़ता है. कुआं प्यासे के
Hmm.
पास नहीं आता. That's that one line that in the field of education where they have like to be honest, I wonder why I still call it the field of education
Hmm.
where it has turned into a business big time, all the way from universities, colleges. They have created demand Why? By how? By setting huge standards that okay, तुम्हें ये करना है, तुम्हें इतने परसेंटेज चाहिए, तुम्हें ये करना है, ये करना है, तुम्हें अच्छे कॉलेज में ये तुम्हें आईआईटी जाना है, यहाँ जाना है, वहाँ जाना है. You have to set these standards and only then you will be selected. So वो एक burden जो लोगों पर आ चुका है. It is such a crazy thing to me. I still cannot wrap my head around the whole concept. How do you take something so innocent, something so creative, something so vast, and chain it down to something so miserably controlled?
So I'll give you my unpopular opinion on that.
Okay.
I think it, the institutions,
Yeah.
the educational institutions, should function like a business.
Okay.
Okay. I think, I don't know, but I think
Mm-hmm.
if we were to run the institutes as an enterprise,
Yeah.
as entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
we would probably run it better. What really is happening is we are trying to um, portray
Yeah.
it as a godly thing,
Yeah.
right? Academics मतलब भगवान, teachers यानी भगवान का रूप.
Another unpopular opinion, although people will agree. Three major myths that were told to us as children living in this society. बेटा 10th पास कर लो, लाइफ बन जाएगी. ठीक है. सेकंड मिथ, बेटा 12th पास कर लो, लाइफ बन जाएगी. नो रिजल्ट, बेटा ठीक है, ये तो खाली टेस्ट रन था. नाउ योर वर्ल्ड shatters as soon as you enter the university. Shit, whatever I knew about this world does not exist. I have no clue. Now, another favorite opinion of people. बेटा यूनिवर्सिटी पास कर लो, डिग्री ले लो, जॉब ले लो, लाइफ सेट. And here kids are starving for the fact that why am I not allowed to express my opinions?
So, I wouldn't disagree on that. In fact, I would give you an additional insight on this. We were talking about the whole education purposes,
Yeah.
right? And at a certain point of time in economy,
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of education was also to filter.
Yeah.
Okay, and that it's there's nothing wrong with it
Okay.
as long as it changes with the need of the hour.
True.
At a certain point of time, you could imagine the education or the academic system to function like a filter. नीचे से बच्चे ऊपर आ रहे आ रहे ये पास किया, ऊपर आपके एम्प्लॉयर्स हैं,
Hmm.
राइट? जिसने अच्छे से पास किया वो ऊपर वाले अच्छे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ले जाएंगे, जिन्होंने ठीक ठीक किया वो बीच के फिल्टर से मिड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ले जाएंगे जहाँ पे लोग जाना नहीं चाहते पर जॉब तो चाहिए. सो दैट इज अ रोल दैट द academic system was playing once upon a time.
The industrial era, as we all know.
Yeah. And that was an important factor at one point in time, because otherwise how do you filter out people,
Yeah.
right? At a very, I'm being very blunt about it,
Yeah.
but that is how it worked.
It worked that.
And
True,
it
true, true.
stayed on. And that is the issue is not it's doing that.
So basically, it is like a lawnmower that was started,
Yeah.
but they forgot to switch it off.
Exactly.
And it's still cutting grass even when the grass is all healthy and it is good.
It's time to stop, no?
It's time to stop. Just stop.
Mhm.
Although, to be honest, this has been so insightful that like I cannot pick out my favorite line that you have said, because there's a lot of things that I am taking right now. So, first of all, although people hate talking about unpopular opinions, although people fear judgment, although people do not want to go against the crowd, how do you, or if you were given a chance to set up a rule that everybody had to follow, how would you solve this problem? Just a hypothetical situation. No pressure.
I think we're already doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, So again, setting a rule would mean absolutism.
Yeah.
You have to do it this way, There's no other way, this way or
True.
highway. But it's about giving space to
Mm,
people.
true.
And again, a very interesting story.
Yeah.
So I was working with an organization where we would work with school kids
Mm-hmm.
to build aspiration in them, right? And that aspiration was built through a medium of debating, right?
Okay.
And I was doing a session with few bunch of kids,
Mm-hmm.
and the topic was should we explore space?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there were groups, both of them, all the groups were discussing, and every child would come up and say, नहीं space में कुछ मिल सकता है, elements हो सकते हैं, हमें Venus पे जाना चाहिए, Mars पे जाना चाहिए. That was one point, and others said the otherwise. There was one kid who said, my space is the space around me.
Okay.
Okay, and I would want to explore it, otherwise I would not grow. So, at the same time, I would also want my space not to be chaotic or others coming into my space without my consent. So, you have to give me my space, but I would be open to come to yours and you would be invited to mine. And that was such a different way of
That is
looking at it,
mind blowing.
right?
How old was that kid?
Uh, must be 14 years old at
And
that time.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and that is where it comes to this point that if we really want the unpopular opinions to come out and people to grow as they are
Yeah.
as individuals, we need to give them space and we
Mm.
need to create models, we need to create delivery systems where people have their space to grow as they want and not be judged. And
True.
we can play a small role in our own ways. It's not going to be done by me as an
Yeah.
individual. It has to be done by a lot of me's over many, 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 many cities and countries. And together, collaboratively, we would be able to do that.
Everybody
And
has to pull somebody in.
yeah.
Everybody has to inspire somebody. Like it just reminded, like the kids' thoughts that actually reminded me of something that a very famous personality, Mr. Sir Nelson Mandela said. He said, "Never let somebody walk into your house with dirty shoes." And when he says house, he refers to your mind. Never let somebody walk your mind with their dirty shoes. Which is
Mm.
true because people need to understand that even though that we know what's wrong, there's a lot of things that we don't know. I always, there's this activity that I did in one of my seminars. You know what pie charts are, right? So, like we, instead of pie chart, we did a Venn diagram.
Mm.
So the huge circle is all the knowledge in the world, right? So all you have to do is draw a small circle in that and do a dot. Now that dot is everything you know. And the circle is everything that you know that you don't know. Everything that you're aware of that you don't know. Because you know what
Mm.
Amitabh Bachchan is and what Amitabh Bachchan does at his house. But you know that you don't know what he's doing inside his house.
Mm.
So there is a lot of things that you need to discover. So I always say this to everybody, and even a lot of the students that I have taught, that first space to begin in the step of learning is trying to understand and try to know things that you don't know. Now that is a paradox, and that allows them to think.
So I had a very interesting seminar which I was attending, and
Yeah.
the exact conversation took place, right?
Yeah.
And you made a circle
Mm-hmm.
and you made a dot.
Yeah.
And there came the third view that we do not even know what we don't know, which is the bigger circle around. And that's where the humility lies.
True.
Knowing that there are things we don't even know that we don't even know.
We know that we don't know.
Yeah.
Ah. To be honest, there's a lot of concepts that we can go on talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, just a
Yeah.
hypothetical question. Now, this is a question that I ask a lot, right? And I've got such beautiful answers from a lot of beautiful people. Amazing answers. It's a paradox, and the question is, if you had to take a path and you had two options, would you go left where nothing is right, or right where nothing is left?
So left where nothing is right, and right where there's
Nothing left.
left.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. So again, I might be someone who does not like to talk a lot, or I am a very private person, but I don't think I can survive in a place where there's nothing left.
Okay.
Okay, and that is again coming back to whole elimination thing. Because I cannot go left, I would go right, for a very simple reason that we might have things which are not right, but I strongly believe that we'll always find right people who'll
Mm-hmm.
walk the journey with you,
True.
right?
True. True.
And
True.
that takes me back to this one research study I was listening, TED talk, in
Yeah.
fact, I was listening to, where it spoke about what makes people happy.
Yeah.
It summarized the long happiness study they had done, and they spoke about, in the end, it is the meaningful relationships that you form
Yeah.
that makes you happy. So yes, if I go left, have people walking with me, close people walking with me, even if there's nothing right, I'm sure we can work to make things right together.
True. To be honest, I love the way you put it because a lot of people, when they listen to this question, they rule out the fact that how would they feel in that scenario.
Mm.
Right. So a lot of focus when people answer this question is around what they will do with the scenario rather than understanding what would they do to themselves. To be honest, no answer is right in this question.
Yeah.
Like, there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. Everything is right and everything is wrong. And I personally, I'm a person who would go left.
Mm.
But to contradict the same statement, I've always told myself that if I had a chance, I would go right.
Mm.
Why? Because then I would have a chance to create something from scratch, which is once again
Well,
a big deal.
amazing. Yeah.
And to be honest, there's so many perspectives around it.
Yeah.
And I love paradoxes for the same reason. And coming back to the whole education
Yes.
wala sector, I just love it. I just called it education wala sector. But yeah, there's a lot of paradoxes that lie within the education system,
Right.
right? Because initially when people try to understand them, they do not get a hang of it. उन्हें कुछ चीजें समझ ही नहीं आती कि नहीं बॉस ये क्यों नहीं
Mm.
जैसे अच्छा classic question. I recently saw a meme. उस पे the content was that the schools have been lying to us all our lives.
Mm.
Okay, and the statements were: first standard, the sun rises from the east, sets in the west. Third standard, sun rises from the east, sets in the west. Fifth standard, suddenly dunya badal jati hai. Wait, the sun's not rising or setting, it's the earth that revolves around the sun.
Mm.
And hence the school has been lying to us all this time. So one thought that came to me is that irrespective of the childish meme that I saw, that even though that some things are there that we cannot explain, do we actually make effort in trying to understand what or how they work? What is your opinion? Because people are so busy asking why,
Mm.
they forget to ask what causes this. And I'll share something with you after this, but I want to know what's your outlook.
Hmm. So now we are talking about asking the what makes it happen instead of
Why
why.
is it happening?
But don't you think they all fall under the same bracket as long as you ask, right?
True.
Like even this meme, small meme that you
Yeah.
just spoke about, you would find kids or children who would go and ask the teacher, teacher ये कैसे होता है,
Yeah.
और ये क्यों होता है.
Hmm.
And earlier, again, I would say that we are far, far better from where we were.
Hmm.
Earlier, a teacher might have just told, चुप रहो तुम, अभी नहीं, बाद
Hmm.
में, इतना होता है, बस होता है, मैंने कह दिया इसलिए होता है. A lot of different ways. Today, asking questions is more important, and you'd probably be accepted if you do ask the question. So to me, it doesn't matter whether you ask the what or the how or the why, the how or the why. It's about asking the right questions. It's about asking the questions. पहले आप पूछो तो सही. It's not easy asking questions.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of self internal conflict के खड़े हो गए question पूछो.
Exactly. It is the most simple yet the toughest task.
Yeah, I
Because,
agree.
it's such, because hota kya na, hum, like, just like you said, the teachers usually like, shh, abhi nahi. Parents usually do that, shh, abhi nahi. They do that. And that's in a way, telling the child that your questions aren't important. They
Mhm.
might not mean it by their action, but that's the message that the child receives.
Yeah, sometimes unconsciously, subconsciously, you just do it. You're
Exactly.
tired. You don't want to answer. You don't know the answer. You say that. But yes, it's a very different way the child might perceive it.
True. Now, as we come towards the end of the podcast, like,
Mm.
this has been such a delight listening to you and hearing to your thoughts. And I hope everybody out there who is listening to Miss Nihar, she has shared some great insights that, to be honest,
Mm.
I felt were fresh for once, because a lot of things that we hear now are repeated over and over again. The media is constantly running it down. So, I, just like I did today, I just want to advise you one thing. Just remember this, that if ever you get a chance to sit with somebody and have a conversation that you have never had, do it and don't hesitate. You never know what turns out. And if you're willing to learn, just talk to as many people as you can, no matter who you talk to, when you talk, or what makes you talk to them. Just remember, stay curious, and life will unfold right in front of you. So, our viewers, if they wish to contact you or they want to give their contribution or their support to Anwesha, how can they
Right.
contact you?
So they could write to me,
Okay.
email, they could call me up, they could drop a WhatsApp if that's more
Okay.
comfortable to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they could follow us on social medias. So we
Okay.
have a Facebook, nice, quite Facebook page, and we have
Okay.
a website.
What name is the name? What's the name of the page?
So the website is www.acefound.org. Acefound as in ACEFOUND. Acefound.org. And our Facebook page is again Anwesha Composite Education Foundation. So
That's lovely.
just look it up. I think net is very easy to
Yeah,
find everything we want
internet's
to. Yeah.
given all the access.
Yeah.
And if you cannot find those, we are gonna attach the links right in the description so you can check it out. And I love the work Anvesha is putting in to change our outlook on education and changing our definition of failure, where failing is more of a situation and
Mm.
failure is not a person but a situation. So this will be
Yeah.
us.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
so much.
much.
Thank you so much. Loved listening to you, loved interacting with you. And I hope we can have new perspectives coming in from people who listen as well. So,
I
yes.
hope that like, people resonate with this. I hope people contribute and support the whole motive that Anvesha has taken up, and people get to resonate with your ideas as well. So
Mm.
thank you so much, Miss Nihar. It has been amazing. It has been very refreshing, and I could not have predicted such a delightful conversation because, to be honest, education might be something that people have talked about a lot. But at the end of the day, having somebody who has been there in the field, looked in the corners where nobody actually takes time to look, and it's very refreshing to find out that there is real people trying to solve real time problems where people are busy quarreling about
Mm.
shit on social media. I shit you not, they are doing that. Ah, it has been great. Thank you so much. And this is us for this episode. If you loved this content and if you love the thoughts Miss Nihar shared, make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, check out Anwesha Foundation, and we'll be here learning, taking notes on life together in our next episode.